Just, did you know that in 2011-2012, the budget of defense was 45.2 billion shillings. In 2025-2026, it's at 213 billion shillings. That's a growth of 471%. And just for better context, in 2022-2023, when President William Ruto was coming into office, the budget was 138.98 billion shillings. It has gone up to 213, which is about 70 billion shillings increment. Yeah, so that's the funding to the defense. Let's transition to the economy for the last 3 years, because a lot of things have happened. The interest rates have been going down. I think for the treasury bills, it's now below 8%, coming down from a high of 16% sometime last year. This has been touted as one of the key achievements because now it makes credit cheaper, not just for government, but also for the private sector. I don't know, Gabriel, when you think of the state of the economy, what does government think?
What does government think? I think we're heading in the right direction. Still challenges, but honestly, if you are to be fair, we are heading in the right direction. At least some, I can commend this media house. I saw a documentary that you ran yesterday. Yes, it was just talking about Unga, but that just tells you, you know, it actually depicted.
That's for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time, at least that one I liked. Because I speak of the government, I like that one. Because at some point that had been the bone of contention.
Welcome back to Citizen TV.
Yeah. Thank you. At least that had been the bone of contention. But Sam, I, as a good student of governance, I tell people, if I am to judge you fairly, or any of my members here, the first thing I have to ask, not only ask, the situation that we must look into is where you were in the past. That way, we are able to not only look at how far you've come, but we also comprehend the journey that you have come. And, you know, I was just looking, 3 weeks ago, we were discussing with somebody, and they were saying, we were talking about somebody who was somewhere abroad, and they were talking about roads. And that was a very key indicator, you know, because now we can see what has happened. And he was saying, you know, nothing is going on. And then I stopped him on his tracks and I told him, do you know when the president came in, the first thing that met him on his table was pending bills. Roads alone was nearly 170 billion. Now, 580 roads, my brothers, had been stopped. Contractors had gone some. Local economies that these contractors
How many kilometers are those?
Support. I don't know, but I'm talking about 580 roads were stalled. And you have pending bills. Contractors have left. Today, all those contractors, as of 2 months ago, all those contractors are back to work. They were given about 60 billion in pending bills, and I know there's something going on to, you know, to pay the rest. And to me, that just tells me, yes, you've talked about the interest rates, but there are so many other things. Sam, me and you are here. When people were putting on bakulis and whatever it was, going out across town, talking about unga, sufurias, all right? We were here when we subsidized unga to 100 shillings, and we knew it won't work. So credible, deliberate actions, at the very least, to try and bring up our economy back. And let me tell you, what has been put in, we may not agree depending on who you ask, but where I am seated, with the data that I have seen, Sam, we are heading in the right direction. Whether you look at it in matters agriculture, where you look at it in matters fuel, where you look at it in matters food items, where you look at it in the technology that we are talking about, we are heading in the right direction.
But are Kenyans poorer or richer now, 3 years later?
Again, it depends on who you ask and at what particular stage you ask them.
What is data telling you?
Are Kenyans poorer? Let me ask you that. Let me actually try and answer that question. To the many hustlers who could not borrow because they were listed in the CRB, they can tell you today they are much better than they were 3 years ago. Yeah? To Mama Mboga now, who had taken... Who, what?
Where are they borrowing?
My friend, you've not seen there's something called Hustler Fund. Really?
How much, how much are they borrowing?
Oh, come on. It doesn't matter how much they are, as long as they are borrowing, but with less predatory practices. To me, the many stories I've had, some music to my ears. Do you know, you had people borrowing 100, not even 1,000 shillings, let's put it that way, 1,000, 2,000, but the interest that was put on that 1,000, if they didn't come square with the house at the end of the day, it was humongous. At the very least now, you have people who are breathing space. And even that 5,000, if you didn't pay it, your name, CRB. All right? So at the very least, that environment...
That's what I'm asking.
That environment...
Do you have data?
That environment. There is data. There is data. I don't have it with me here, but there is data. So many young men and women today will collaborate.
You really don't like me asking questions, do you?
No, I like to ask questions. But sometimes it's not that I don't like you asking questions. What sometimes I find a little bit hazy is you ask me questions when you already know the answers. Because this is a topic...
No, I don't know the answers. I'm asking...
This is a topic we've talked
about. Can I finish the question?
You asked me. No, I'm still answering the question you asked.
Just hold it.
Kenyans richer.
Just hold it.
The 500,000.
The question I'm asking is...
Let me just finish this, and then the 500,000 Kenyans, nearly 400,000, let me be exact. 400,000 now heading to 500,000 Kenyans, who have left this country heading to the labor mobility. Yeah? If you ask them that question, they'll tell you we are better off. To the farmer, who so many people when it came to...
Don't make it a moving target, because then we are not able to respond to the question. The question I wanted to ask you is this, on the Hustler Fund question.
You really don't want
Gabriel,
to answer.
Can I just ask the question? If you don't have an answer, it's okay to say I don't have an answer.
On the Hustler,
I am asking this. Do you know the impact of the Hustler Fund to the economy of Kenya?
I do know, yes. The impact is it has actually brought so many people to do business without predatory lending.
Okay. Do you have data showing that? The impact, to say that the contribution to GDP has been this?
Oh, no, that one I don't have.
Growth of businesses has been this?
No, I don't have. You don't have
it doesn't exist?
It does exist. It does exist.
Okay,
and I can get
fine.
it to you.
Maybe when you find it, we'll have...
it does exist.
A better conversation.
But allow me to finish that, because that data exists, and I can get it to you.
Please do.
Right? It may not be on my fingertips, but I can get it to you. Secondly, we cannot say that it did not happen when we talk about the 400,000 young men and women who have left our shores to go and eke a living in other parts of the world. It is a great initiative. When you talk about the farmers today, 6.5 million farmers, who now we have on record, who would not access fertilizer because you had so many middlemen coming in the middle saying, no, they would hoard fertilizer. Today, when that season opens up, a text message comes and you know where to collect your fertilizer. So there are so many initiatives, my friend, that has been done that, the economy today, it's not even our local data supporting, the S&P Global. Now we are at a B rating. It just did not happen. We are not the 6th largest economy in Africa from number 8 because of doing nothing. So when you ask me, is Kenya doing better? Are we better off? Without a shred of doubt, we are.
Okay. Well, Kenya is a step ahead because Ethiopia devalued. What did they do? What is that word? What did they do to the economy?
Valuation of their currency?
Yes. But Diana, talk to us about how you see it, the economy. He says a lot of things are doing well, but what are you seeing from your side? What is it?
No, I can tell from her face. Sorry, we've done this several times. Diana has never had anything good to say about this.
Sam, I am right here.
Can I just hear from her?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
First is to say the fertilizer subsidy is working.
Wow.
I work with farmers in very many counties. It works. Where it works, that cost of 2.5 is a reasonable cost, and it helps production. As to who accesses and whether it can be expanded, that's another debate. But that is working. This government, under this government, we must be grateful for the rains. I keep saying that because then production has also grown. But are Kenyans richer or poorer? First is the attack on people's incomes to raise more revenue for housing levy, for SHIF, income tax, the VAT on fuel, people's incomes have not grown. We are not doing COLA as much, cost of living adjustment for corporates, because it's a very tight space. So disposable incomes of Kenyans has gone lower. It would be very good if Kenyans were contributing more revenue and getting better services, not borrowing from Hustler. I'm aware 26 million Kenyans have borrowed Hustler Fund, including, shockingly, my mother.
I need to meet your mom.
How did she borrow? People went around, told her she's registering for SHIF, and then she gave her phone. She registered for SHIF, then somebody borrowed on her behalf 100,000 from Hustler Fund.
100,000?
And it was, yes, and it was diverted to a different account.
Wait,
No.
100,000?
Yes.
No, not possible.
You wait, so that you tell us about this Hustler Fund.
100,000?
Yes, we have followed up. This is a personal account. This is a wait.
No, let her finish.
Wait.
I mean, listen first,
Wait.
and you respond.
Okay.
Then they also borrowed, she never has Fuliza, she's a pensioner in the village and she farms. They borrowed all that. So there is capacity to borrow from Hustler Fund, apparently. And certain people have irregular access, which is very worrying, because ordinarily people start with very small amounts. Who are these? Should have been listed on CRB automatically, because that's not her capacity. And she has no use for...
So did she receive the 100,000 shillings?
It was that we followed a whole investigation.
And it was directed to?
A different number. They are fraudsters. People need to tell the story.
Are these the agents of SHA who
We have no
apparently
idea.
came to assist her to register?
They were all con people who have access
To her number?
to Hustler.
Did they call her?
They had her phone.
How did they?
They
They had her
visited
phone.
her.
Yes, and said, we are enrolling people for SHA. Okay? My mother is a patriot like me. She was ready to enroll. But in the process of enrolling, somebody actually took money from what algorithms could have possibly been utilized. That's truly unfortunate and something that must be tightened completely. I hope they are not, and you know, that is similar to what was happening on these mobile apps for borrowing. Very many women were conned on that particular basis. It would be unfortunate. It is unfortunate that Hustler would have similar leaks. It is just something that must be addressed.
Okay.
Now, we work with women, and is borrowing easier currently? No, it is not yet easier. The 26 million who have accessed Hustler Fund, are there new startup businesses that we are seeing across the villages because of this? No.
Oh, really?
No, it is for survival, and it is wrong that Kenyans are borrowing for survival. Think about the medium enterprises, the people who would get into production, manufacturing. Those two sectors have been on the decline. These are the people who would create jobs in this particular country. We are seeing a capital heist. One of the things I am happy is that the interest rates are going down.
Yep.
Because government must stop borrowing very expensively. When government borrows very expensively, nobody else gets credit in this country. Agents from the banks no longer call me to use my pay slip so that I can borrow. Because they have to follow me up, I am employed on contract, they are not sure whether I'll be in employment tomorrow. But here is government that has been borrowing at 15, even 18% for treasury bills. So that reduction is a good thing, but we have not yet felt it. We have not yet felt it. Will they remain this consistent when we still have very, very sharp pressures for borrowing? We must pay 1.7 trillion in debt and debt interest this year, in addition to the 1.25 of salaries. 1.25 plus 1.7, 3 point?
It's almost 3.0.
3 point thereabout.
Yes.
The revenue that was collected last year is 2.5.
2.57.
So just for debt and salary, we already have a deficit of $500 million. We will borrow again. We are currently not under the IMF program. The World Bank has given us conditionalities. We are borrowing from bond markets across other continents, not at the most favorable of rates. So it is not yet, it's still gloomy. It's still very, very gloomy.
Yep.
I think the government needs to realize they are an austerity government. They found a mess, okay? They will have to be there, and they have to stay with austerity. As long as they imagine that they can be immediate prosperity, we are not yet on the recovery path.
And David, because if you look at the statistics, that's what I was asking for numbers from Gabriel here. The Control of Budgets report for the financial year 2024-2025, it came out last week, yes, it's actually last week. And it showed that in that year, the public debt payments were up to 1.59 trillion shillings, call it 1.6 trillion. Then there were the public debt as of June 2025, according to her figures, or that office's figures, is 11.7 trillion shillings. So we are growing because President Ruto came into the office at 8.7 trillion. So that's an additional, is it close to 4? If you had to look at the math. We're now borrowing more in the domestic market. The scales are tilting because the domestic debt is now at 54%. External is 46%. The desired target is 50-50, according to the medium-term debt management strategy. In the current financial year, the deficit is 923 billion shillings, likely to go up with supplementary budgets that will be coming. So even as we are told that at the international stage we're stabilizing, we're incurring more debt. And at the same time, Kenyans are paying more taxes, first of all, but then there's the SHIF, there's the affordable housing levy. All resources going to management by the government, but outside the consolidated fund. So what does that mean economically?
So thanks, Sam. The issue of debt is a very interesting discussion every time. And when you listen to different speakers, they have different things to paint. The truth is that you always look at debt in terms of debt to GDP ratio, because that then tells you whether we are operating in a safe environment or we have gone into a risk territory. Now, when you look at Kenya, we are at about 70% as it now, slightly slightly not yet 70, but we are almost 70. Now, Japan, for example, that is a developed world, the greatest indebted nation on earth currently,
yep.
The debt to GDP ratio is at 200%, but they are moving on. The celebrated US, the debt to GDP ratio is at 120%. The UK, 100%. Italy, 100%. So, ideally, the issue is not really the debt per se, because some debt is not necessarily evil. It is not necessarily bad. It is what you make out of it that makes it evil. If, as a nation, we borrow even more than the 12 trillion that we just talked about, or 11 trillion, and we do 15 or even 20, the issue will not be to what extent are we indebted and to what extent are we burdening the Kenyan people. I think what is critical is the debts that we are getting into, is it working for Kenyans? That is a greater conversation.
What's your answer? Is it?
It's mixed, because we have seen things happening. My brother here has talked about road network, which is expanding. We've seen a number of things.
But David, on the roads, it's, what did you call it? Securitization of the RMLF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not acknowledged as part of the public debt. You know that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But if you look at the
so we're using different strategies to finance.
Yes.
So sort of understating our debt, but if you had to critically look at those others, then our debt is actually more than 11.7.
It is possible. It is possible that it could be because of that securitization. But what I'm saying, Sam, there is a lot of infrastructure development that is happening. That is true. Now, the greater question will be, are we using all this money prudently? Maybe that is what we need to engage.
Correct.
And maybe what we need to discuss further. Because the debt issue, even at a personal level, you can borrow money, 1 million shillings, and you go and treat your friends to some nyama choma. Will it have helped your family? No.
No.
But if you borrow 1 million shillings and you went and bought a plot and you develop that plot and it is now helping the country, then certainly your family will be helped. The same thing
that's
for
what I'm
a
asking.
country. Yeah.
Are we borrowing to build or to finance our recurrent expenditure?
To finance our recurrent expenditure, including 1 billion for advisors. Just borrowing to go and treat your friends. And luckily for...
Surely, Diana...
That is where we are. That is where we are.
What do you expect from Diana?
Please, David,
Yeah,
it was a question to you.
Diana, you know, if they are advisors, they are advisors.
Correct.
Even you have an advisor. You may not be paying 1 million, you may be paying 10,000.
David, back to my question. Are we borrowing to finance development or recurrent?
We borrow for both.
Yes.
And let me tell you the reason why we borrow for both. This 11 trillion sum that we are talking about is not a borrowing of one government. I have heard people say, oh, Kibaki borrowed much less.
Yeah.
The question is, did Kibaki pay off what he borrowed? No. Uhuru borrowed a lot more than Kibaki. Did Uhuru, our President Uhuru, pay off what he borrowed? He didn't. So all this borrowing are now coming to be paid by the current administration. And I'm not saying that...
Paying by borrowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you must, you know, Shakespeare said there are instances where you dig a hole and you use the soil from that hole to cover another hole that you had dug before.
Yeah.
For survival purpose, some.
And William Ruto said when you're in a hole, you stop digging.
Yeah, if you can be able to stop digging, it is better. And
So
that
you
is
dig another one.
No, raw intelligence is dig another one.
There are instances, some, where literally you must dig another hole to give you a breather. You get? Because sometimes you just need a breathing space to be able to make sober decisions and move. Because debts can strangle you. Debts are not good.
Correct.
They're not.
And when debts mature, I've had people talk about, oh, Kenya going the route of Ghana and ABCD, because when the due date arrives and you have no capacity to pay, you are strangled.
Correct.
So what do you do to survive? You borrow a friend, okay? That is another loan, and tell him that this lady's loan has matured.
Yeah.
Please lend me, I pay her off, and then meantime you give me 3 months.
But why not cut the expenditure that you're seeing?
Like what, Sam? Just a question. Like what?
Remember what I
No,
said?
the truth is, Sam, the truth is that you can cut expenditure.
Yes, and you must.
But the cutting of expenditure is not an instant thing. It is a process that can be tedious. It is a process that can be very laborious. Why? Because those that you are cutting from are also used to enjoying those expenditures.
Gabriel, it's good that you asked that question, and I'm coming to you, Ramogi. What should we cut? Can I tell you something?
And I know you...
No, just hold on.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll be silent.
In the year ending June 30th, 2024, the travel budget for the Office of the President and State House, do you know how much it was?
I knew that was going to be true.
It was 1.74 billion shillings.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the subsequent financial year, do you know how much it has been? 2.7 billion shillings. An additional 1 billion shillings.
Have you checked MFA?
You know, Sam, what I decided I will never do?
Yes.
And I'm glad really my friend has really done a good service to some of the questions that he has answered. I said I'll never compare administrations, I'll never compare previous, unless I have core information of what is going on.
Gabriel, I'm not comparing previous administrations. I'm telling you.
I'm not saying
State House of William Ruto, the year ending June 2024 versus ending June 2025.
You have to let me answer. And then, because
same office.
First of all, the data that you're talking about, there is data that I received because we also asked for that information. And there is actually somebody who I know, you can give a call and he can give you the data. Yeah?
No, I don't want data. I'm telling you what the Control of Budget has reported.
And, it's the same office that somebody from this media station was asking about the e-citizen. only to be told, yes, there was information that had not reached the Auditor General. You remember that conversation very well.
I'm not talking about the Auditor General. Look, Gabriel, you know how the control of budget works. They summarize a report from your own reporting. So the accounting office at State House and the office of the President...
I do, even though I don't...
No, this for the sake of clarity.
The
accounting officers... The accounting officers... Please, Gabriel. The accounting officers of Office of the President and State House... Yes, indeed. The accounting officers of those two offices, they report to the control of budget.
Correct.
The control of budget summarizes. And they are saying that the travel budget for the Office of the President plus State House was 1.74 billion shillings in the year ending June 2024. In the year ending June 2025, it has gone up to 2.7 billion shillings. And you're asking, where do we cut expenditure? That is an expenditure that has gone up. And that's why the Kenyans are having to borrow more for such and others.
Travel expenditure.
Can I finally have...
You see, again, the disservice that we do is when you ask whether that travel, in fact, that's what should be asking, was that travel, was it required? Was that travel, was it required? Was it budgeted for? And I can guarantee you, yes, even though I don't speak for that particular office. But I think, Sam, the problem that I've had for the longest, including what Diana is saying, is that comparison that really, and I don't want to say it doesn't make sense, but it is so imbalanced.
That's what you're saying.
No, it is so imbalanced that we end up looking as if we are, the debate we are having is so, it's a bit down, if you understand what I'm saying. My brother has just explained very well. Debt has been carried throughout the years, throughout the administrations. I have just told you something like the Hustler Fund. You asked me, you read something there, and you asked me the impact of it. When I tell you, and Diana said, when I tell you 26 million Kenyans have accessed, the 74 billion in groups, all right? Does that make Kenyans poorer? Or, let me use the word richer.
How much?
26 million Kenyans have accessed over 74 billion in group, mostly youths, mama mboga, boda readers, and I don't know whether the data probably you are reading, it could be the same. 5 billion has been saved through that platform. 7 million Kenyans, once blacklisted, have been delisted and restored to the credit system, unlocking borrowing power. 9 million Kenyans are repeat Hustler Fund borrowers. More than 7 million hold a strong A to B credit rating, unlocking higher loans limited and pathways to commercial banks. In fact, that was the true genius of Hustler Fund.
And what is the range of borrowing?
The range of borrowing, it depends. It depends. 5 billion in both mandatory and voluntary saving mobilized. You asked about the impact. The impact, new business started, women, youth, and PWDs are accessing capital more easily. CRB blacklisted. In fact, that was a major thing. How many
businesses started?
All I know is new business started. I cannot tell you.
I can give you the statistics.
Probably he can give you the statistics, More small-scale business formalized, democratization of finance, and empowering grassroots entrepreneurship. More digital lenders are regulated, reducing predatory lending practices. And this is, Sam, to me, that's the major impact. When we are grading...
That's okay, Gabriel. Why are you getting tired? I'm
not getting tired. Today, first of all, is I don't want to ask your questions. Now it's you who don't want to hear what I'm...
Let me hear from Ramogi, because, you've made a case of the fund. Never mind that on specifics, there are certain figures that are missing. Ramogi...
Which figures are you missing? Which figures are you missing?
Just how many businesses have been started. You don't have a figure, do you?
No, I don't have a figure, but the figures that I have...
Let me move to Ramogi. I might get answers.
No, I don't think you'll have
Your take.
Yes, for a moment there, I was feeling marginalized. Watu wanaongea wakirudia while I'm waiting. Let me give you just a picture of where our economy is. When Uhuru Kenyatta came to government in 2013, we were about 17 years away from achievement of the Vision 2030. And at that time, I think economists at the Ministry of Treasury felt that there was need for an accelerated growth strategy. And so that is what drove us towards borrowing. Now, there are two ways to accelerate growth. One, you can borrow. Now, if you borrow, this is now top-down growth kind of strategy, where you borrow, and then you expect that this borrowed money will circulate in the economy, create a multiplier effect, and give you the desired growth. The challenge of it is the growth is dependent on one unit called the government. On the other hand, you can drive investments. Now, when you drive investments, it's a bottom-up approach where a lot of small pockets of growth are happening in the economy. And in those small pockets, then you find investors who are bringing in money, and that money creates the multiplier effect that is so desired. They opted for the top-down approach. Now, the challenge of that is that when you have all this money, where growth is dependent on, in one pot, the chances of it reaching the bottom are very slim. It did not. Because if you look at the borrowing at that time, we borrowed around 3 times, which is 300% of where we were before we came into, they came into power. But if you look at the growth, in the 10 years, at an average growth rate of 5% per annum, that growth is 50%, which means for every shilling, for any growth of 1%, you needed to increase borrowing by 7%. It's a very inefficient system. Naturally, part of the reason is because the money that we were getting, we were giving contractors from China who came even with their vegetables. And so that money was circulating somewhere in Beijing and not in Nairobi. Now, I agree with Diana that this administration is an austerity administration. And their major challenge, their major responsibility right now is to ensure that this ship does not sink. To that effect, I think they have done well, because Eurobond 1 is paid. We still don't know where that money went to, whether it even came to the Republic of Kenya. Eurobond 2 is paid. What remains right now is the SGR money, which of course we know was highly inflated. Now, I am a microeconomist, so the question I ask myself is, where are we economically speaking from a microeconomic perspective? And then and that is why I'll probably, again, not give you the lofty GDP figures. I'd want to see, has the price of food items gone down? And the answer is yes. For all their weaknesses, I mean, food prices are low. Is the exchange rate manageable today better than it was before? And the answer is yes. It is. We have stabilized. It's one of the biggest mysteries among economists, how we've stabilized the exchange rate at 129 to 130 for all that while. Because really, it's one of the biggest mysteries. Because you don't see where this money is coming from, but it's stabilized. The third question, and which is where Diana left her conversation, is the question of incomes versus taxation. Yeah. And if then the borrowing can come down, and it has come down, that means therefore that people can do can get borrowing and do jobs, and that is happening. But on the other hand, I have seen a very significant shift from the fiscal consolidation program that the IMF put us through. Yeah. Because the fiscal consolidation program simply meant that the IMF was feeling we were undertaxed, and so we needed a greater taxation happening. That has, the atmosphere has shifted, partly because of June 25, 2024, and partly because, well, at least we are in a better position right now. So in the last budget reading, you did not see the aggressive taxation policies that were there previously. Right. What am I saying about that? I am saying we are not where we ought to be, but we are also not where we used to be. And so I think we need to appreciate that truth.
That's good. I like that.
Very, very interesting perspectives. You wanted to add something?
Yeah. I wanted to say that in terms of job creation and registration of business, the truth is that there has been an increase in terms of registration of business. If you look at digital engagements, it has moved from about 41,000 in 2022 to almost 182,000 in 2025. That's massive growth. The business registration services has also recorded an increase, which technically means Kenyans are out there looking for opportunities, and they are actively engaging in the business world to increase their livelihood. Because I think we are doing almost 150,000 new business registrations per year, which is an increase as well. So technically speaking, I am not saying those businesses are functional, because that is one thing to register a business and another thing to make it functional, but at least the appetite for Kenyans to make their lives better seems to be on an upward trend, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Yes, David, I agree with you that registration is up, but that has never been a problem. Kenyans are enterprising. We have very industrious young people who will register businesses. I think I have at least 3 or 4 to my name. Do they make money?
I hope they are making money.
No, that is the big question. They are not making money, at least at the level I want.
So they are making money.
No, one is making money. The other ones are looking at me, waiting for money. And let me say, Sam, that I think we need to look at the nature or the ease of doing business in the country from the businesses that are doing well. Because in 2 years, really, some of those businesses closed down. And the challenge we've had in the past is businesses are closing down. Big businesses are closing down or leaving from this economy. We need to appreciate the fact that we are coming from a point where the economy was underperforming, and agree to the fact that there is need to spur investment, just to bring us back to that conversation, because borrowing really will not help us to get where we want. But if we can get investment, those small pockets of monies creating a buzz on the ground, I think we can get the kind of growth we desire.
Okay, all right. We have to bring it to a close because time is running. There's something someone said, I think it was you, Ramogi, that cost of food has gone down. Indeed, it has gone down from the highs of 2023 and a bit of 2024, but it's also important to note that 2 kgs of sugar in the year 2022 was below 300 shillings. It is now about 349, 350 shillings. So cumulatively, there has been a growth. So the increment in prices may be slowing down, but there's still an increase. That's what you call inflation. Let's take a look at the feedback at Citizen TV. At Sam Gichuku, the hashtag to use is Citizen TV. Finally, we agree with Gabriel Muthuma. Frank Oride says that...
Some we always agree. Me and you are, we are pals.
Let me read the feedback. The court's halt on the government's e-procurement rollout is more than a policy setback. It's a reminder that reforms must respect due process and the rule of law, reinforcing that governance is guided by law, not executive shortcuts. Kipropio is saying, if corruption hides in the shadows, then e-procurement is the light. No more hidden files, no more backdoor deals. Every step leaves a digital footprint. Lekishon Laban, however good e-procurement may be, the law allows both manual and digital, and counties differ in digital access. Roadside decrees without following the law was needless. Courts halting it is welcome, hence law and ethics must guide procurement, manual or digital. Octo Kama, you're saying over 67% of youth are jobless or underemployed, yet they are told to innovate in an economy where licenses, taxes and high costs strangle SMEs. How do we expect young people to build businesses while the system feels rigged against them? And in General Lazaro, you're saying to grow an economy, government shouldn't only focus on punitive taxes as the only source of income. Let's think of dominating markets beyond our borders with our local products. Move with speed to arrest corruption appetite. And Okelo Mwalimu, key macroeconomic indicators show that we are in a worse place than how we were when KK came to power. However, we must appreciate steps taken by the government aimed at making amends. For instance, mass recruitment of teachers has improved living standards of the beneficiaries. That's your feedback. And of course, the conversation continues. Just more data for Gabriel here. That it is important to note that over time, the cost of managing government has gone up. I was going to refer you to some numbers that when Gen Z went on the streets back in June 2024, there was a promise to cut down on expenditure. And indeed, we saw Supplementary Budget 1 coming on board, but eventually Supplementary Budgets 2 and 3 raised the expenditure from a low of about 5 billion shillings for State House to a high of, what was the figure? About 12 billion shillings. Eventually, the Control of Budget is reporting that the actual expenditure was 11.7 billion shillings. And that is true for so many other services, including the National Police Service, the Defense, the Teacher Service Commission. Many expenditure, and especially recurrent, went up despite the promise to cut down on expenditure. That's our time. Odhiambo Ramogi, David Tanki, Diana Gishengo, and Gabriel Muthuma, thank you for making time for us to have this conversation. Bye for now.